Hey guys, welcome to the studio. Today's going to be a slight departure from our usual 2D or 3D pieces of artwork and more in a little bit to the crafting department. And this particular project is probably going to require you to run to the hardware store, just so you know. This project ran about $33 in materials and requires the following things. It's going to require a $6 syringe set of 2-part epoxy from JB Weld. It will be a 5 and 6 minute setting epoxy. The second item you're going to need is a spray can of Flex Seal. Again, it's found in the hardware department. They're pretty close to each other. Okay. The third one is going to be some plaster of Paris. Those of you who are diehard collectors of art and craft supplies probably have some plaster of Paris in stock. God only knows I did, but I had to go to the hardware store because I ran out. Basically what this project is when you have a pet and you put that pet to sleep, the vet, or at least most vets, at least in the United States, will offer to do a paw print. Okay, some pet, in the past vets have done basically just effectively like a paw print, like a fingerprint on a card. I have some vets that have done that with pets in the past. I have one for my cat, Midnight. More recently, and I don't know if they're sponsored by the supplier of this product, but this is basically your PVC clay, and a lot of vets now will just offer to do this as a free service, and they will do a effectively death cast and a paw print in some PVC clay. And this is Cody's. You might have seen Cody pass by in a couple of previous videos when I was doing like the Great Lakes dragon. You could see him passing by in the background. Because his health has been failing in the last several years, I really took him out of the spotlight as far as I didn't put him in any videos. I didn't really post a lot about him on Facebook, and I let him kind of enjoy his senior years off camera. But this video isn't about putting Cody to sleep. This is actually for those who still have your pets, okay? And maybe we're not really thinking that we want to have one of these. Okay, this is supposed to be something similar, but something a little bit more fun. Now this is something that the vet did. This is supposed to be his right front foot. That was the foot that Cody requested that they do, and I requested they not do a back foot. If I trust them, it may be that right foot, it may be the left front foot. I suspect it's the left front foot. So that is effectively like a death cast of his foot. Actually, it's more like an impression. Okay. I wasn't happy with that one by any means. The piece of PVC clay that they used wasn't big enough. Cody was a 100-pound dog easy, and so not only does the circumference of that disc not cover the entirety of his paw print, but it's not deep enough to transpose the amount of weight and bearing that his size had. Believe me when I tell you that when Cody stepped on your foot, you yelped, you cried out loud, and you yelled at him and told him to get off your foot because it hurt. So I was rather put out with that casting. So for those with large breed dogs, Mastiffs, Malamutes, Huskies that have large pads, Great Danes, or those who have maybe something that has a larger footprint than 3 inches. So maybe you have a horse or a large bird. So, some chickens have large feet. And I know some poultry fans who are very, very in love with their chickens and are very distraught when they have to put their pet chickens down. So I bring to you this alternate to the euthanasia paw print. Okay, because as you can see, this paw print this piece of clay barely covers his paw print. And that is doing a life cast of your pet's foot. This is one that I pulled in the past few days from the backyard, and it is January in Wisconsin, so I suffer from my art. That's not a big surprise. But look at the difference in the relief on this one, okay? I can lose my finger. You can actually stop seeing the profile of my finger trying to put my finger between these two claws, okay? So what this tutorial is it's kind of a walkthrough on what I did in order to obtain not only this one, but similar ones to this one, including a 2-paw print cast that has a rear foot and a front foot. And I can say honestly, this is also a left front foot. So these two paw prints match, but you would never know that they were from the same dog. And this one, and I'm going to excuse myself because after I pulled this up I had to flip one of them over in order to stabilize it because this plaster had not set yet. Okay, the materials that I used, the JB Weld for the claws and the silicone that I used in the pads was set, and I was worried that the backing, which is the plaster, which is the strength behind it, had not set, and I turned around and I put it in my hand actually I put it in my hand like this, okay? And there were several times when Cody and I would have long, deep discussions, okay? And he would try and get me to calm down if I was crying, or he would comfort me, or I was comforting him. There was a lot of comforting moments that involve holding your pet's paw, okay? It's a very tactile moment. So there is a moment on camera where I take this and I'm a little off camera and you don't see me flip it. What I had done is I had flipped the pad, and the JB Weld was hard, but the rubber flex seal had not yet set hard, and so it flexed a little in my hand, and for the first time in days, and something I'd never thought I'd feel again, was his paw in my hand, and I got very emotional. And instead of it being the very negative last impression, okay, it immediately brought back when he made this, what we were doing, and reminded me that at some point he was happy and we were happy together, and that was not his final moments. And this became a huge healing factor in the difference between when Cody was alive and the Cody that I remember and the Cody that walked into the vet that last day. And I want to share this process with you because it helped me heal, and I'm not sure that those who have already had their pets pass, if they're going to be able to do this. I have a very unusual situation where we did not have snow this winter, and so it's been raining. There have been some muddy frozen footprints in the backyard from about a month ago, and they've just stayed frozen. So they were fairly well preserved, but the footprints that are used in this video are at least 2 or 3 weeks old. There was debris in them, and a few of them, there were several of them I could not pick out because they were damaged either by Cody's walking on them himself or the squirrels getting into them. And with the thaw and freeze, some of them had deteriorated, so I did not have a prime pick. But this would be a good project for those who have pets that maybe you are in a muddy area. If you're not, you could definitely do a cast like this by just picking up some clay from your local art and craft store, and not necessarily this clay. Okay, one of the reasons why this clay gives a very poor relief of a paw print is because it's so stiff. An actual clay-based, earth-based clay would be much softer, and it would give you a deeper impression, so you would give more true to life replication of like their weight and bearing. And when you have a paw print like this, it's a nice paw print, and that's cool, but it doesn't bear the weight, and that was what bothered me about that. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this. I'm sorry if the introduction was a little bit long, but to me, this bears a little bit more truth to a reminder of what Cody was. He wasn't a slight dog. He wasn't a 20-pound dog. Each foot carried at least 25 to 30 pounds of weight behind it every single time he put his foot down. And that is not something that translates well in a death cast. So this is going to be life casting your pet's paw print. Again, if you need a material that you need to substitute other than maybe your backyard, you could definitely go grab some sand, mix it with some glue. You're going to have, this is a messy project, and you could put that material in like a shallow, like a shoebox or a tin or a baking pan or something like that. Something that's deeper than, you know, a 1/4 inch. Typically when you get these death casts from the vet, they're only a 1/4 inch. Something that they can really sink their weight into and let that dry, let that set, then go back in with the other materials that are in this tutorial. For something that you're setting in the house, you might not want to use the JB Weld inside because JB Weld, being an epoxy, will really have a large amount of fumes that will be in your house. You'll see me comment in the video about how it really stinks like epoxy in my house, and I don't even think it was just the epoxy from the JB Weld. I think it was also the Flex Seal fumes that were permeating the house. But again, I filmed this about 3-4 days ago. This doesn't even smell like any of that anymore, and this will last a whole life. I will have my boy for the rest of my life. I hope you enjoy. So I've picked out a couple of paw prints of Cody's. There's some more clay-like dirt that's over here closer to the building. And they've got some real distinct paw impressions with his claws. And so I'm taking a can of air like you would use to clean out your computer, and I'm just really gently getting out some of this debris. Like, okay. So I've got this one I like here. I've got two that are cast right here that are actually two paw prints. And it's a front and a rear. That one there, that's a rear, and I can tell because his one toe would splay out. This was made after his hips got really bad. I don't want that one. Just working on it. This one, that one. That one? No, it wasn't this one. That's a rear paw. You do have to be really particular about it because the ground around this paw print is going to collapse. Who says you can't find reuse for anything? I'm going to take these old cable sticks and I'm going to use those to mark the footprints I want to keep. I'm actually glad I didn't get rid of them when I could have. Here's another one. So with some of these, his claw prints are really deep in the dirt. And I am literally going to lose them when I try and pull them out if I cast them all in plaster. So the first part of this is some JB Weld and some epoxy, and we're going to set that down in his claw marks. Just in his claw marks. Second thing is we're going in with this Flex Seal Clear, and it basically turns into a hard rubber. We're just going to coat the bottom of the footprint. nice one right here. Let's see how this one goes. I think this is actually 2 footprints. It's not necessarily wanting to come out anymore. Whew. I still have some plaster, and I got a couple more footprints, so we'll plaster cast some of these other ones, see how they turned out. This one right here is going to wind up with a little bit of damage because there's some sticks in here. And some debris. I think this is the one that I was thinking was not going to work. Again, another rear footprint. I'm not too sure how well that's going to hold as a set of paw prints. I have a little bit more faith in some of this plastic stuff. Okay, so yesterday, in the late afternoon, we were out in the backyard and we cast a pair of footprints in plaster and a couple in that rubber silicone stuff, and some epoxy. So now we're gonna dig up the results. It's been over 12 hours. I'm hoping it's set. The area around the plaster is definitely dry, and we'll see what we get. We're gonna start with this first one here. This was actually the last one I did. The ground is quite a bit frozen, and it still smells like that aerosol can. Not even gonna lie, it still smells like that aerosol can. seeing kind of a problem in here, and that is that the, if I zoom in, you can actually see that the pools of rubber actually kind of pull away from each other. So this might not work. And I'm thinking the ground is still pretty frozen here, which kind of reinforces that whole thing where this babe might not come out of the ground today. Kind of made use of a mixing bowl for the plaster of Paris. I'm seriously wondering whether or not this is going to work, because I see fresh ground underneath these, and I'm wondering if this is going to work. Let's go check out the other ones. I'm a little bit sketchy about this. Okay, so now this one, these paw prints I filled up all the way, and they were very, very well soaked with the polymer. And as I'm looking at them, they have rubberized the ground. I'm wondering whether or not they're going to hold their shape. His nail prints are in here. Let's get down here. Can't show you what I'm looking at. So these little air pockets give me some amount of concern. This is pretty squishy here. So I'm wondering whether or not it's set all the way. Even the ground here in between and the relief of his paw pads is pretty mushy. The rest of this ground is flakes away. I'm kind of wondering if this is a rock or if it's poop. I hope it's a rock. But like this here I filled up. The inside of this toenail area here I filled up. And it's not filled with anything. I'm a little concerned about that. This next set here, again, we filled these all up. Perhaps it's the fact that it didn't cure yet. Clearly, the JB Weld set. Clearly, the JB Weld set. However, this rubber is really pretty malleable. I'm able to like push it down into the recesses and mash it around a little bit. Especially here, where it really filled up, so I'm wondering if it didn't cure. This was a pair of paw prints. This was a rear foot and a front foot. This, of course, is the plaster cast, but because the ground is frozen, I am not going to be able to take this out. The ground is very frozen. I'm not going to be able to take that out. Here's another paw print. This one we did not cast. And I'm thinking, when we go over here, we're going to see pretty much the same thing. It's going to be that rubber didn't really hold. It did fill with a bit of debris. And it looks like the squirrels went after this one. Yep. Squirrels went after this one. However, this one actually I might pull out today because it's in softer ground. It's a little bit more thawed out. This one has not been disturbed by the squirrels. It's one that we've marked with the pole. Again, the ground is a lot softer around it. I might be able to get this one out. This also might leave itself for one more try with the plaster, because the plaster will set fairly quickly. And then maybe trying to do a plaster cast on top of the rubber cast. I think I'm going to have to do that because I don't think that rubber is going to be intact enough. Okay, so I have mixed up 2 batches of plaster, and while the area is closer to the building, where the first plaster clay cast is set, the ground is still frozen there. But the 2 farther out underneath the tree that are more soil seem really kind of soft. The squirrels have gone after it. So I got some plaster in there, and they are setting right now. It takes about 20-30 minutes to cast, and so in about an hour I'm going to go out there and exhume the 2 that are most in danger from the squirrel going after them, and I'm going to let this camera charge. So this is one of the ones that it's got some fairly moist dirt around it. Hopefully starting to think this is going to have to wait for spring because honestly it's not wanting to come out. Oh. Oh, look at that. There's still decent impressions. That just came out one big whole thing. I was not expecting that. Sure as hell stinks though. That's my boy's paw. Yeah, it is. And there's still a decent paw impression right there. Look how big his paw was compared to mine. Look at that. Like the heel of his paw is way down here, and it goes all the way up to the middle digit. Treasure for sure. Granted, his nails were a little bit long, so I didn't capture his whole nail. Let's go over here and see what we got. Another really good solid impression of his foot. And probably take this out and clean it off a little bit. I'm gonna lie. I think I see the spots of my head. Yeah. Oh. But this one has the claws too. This one has the little claws. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little emotional, but I want to get this done before I go to work again. When I got Cody's paw print back from the vet, I got this. You can barely tell there's anything in here. I mean, I'm sure if I hold it up to the light, it looks like something. I mean, yeah, I guess, kind of, sort of. Kind of, sort of. It's got his fingerprints on it. But it wasn't his paw print. Okay? This is not the paw print of a fucking 100-pound dog. So, we set epoxy into the nails on 2 different paw prints. Then put rubber in them, put a rubber sealer in them, and then we sealed that with plaster, had set that. I have 2 more sitting outside that are just plaster, but I couldn't be happier. I've got my boy back, and it's just his paw prints, but I never thought I'd feel his feet in my hand again. So these are the paw prints. I never thought I'd feel his feet again. This one actually has the 2 of his claws. It might have 3, I don't know. Sorry, this one has 2 of his claws right here. It might have 3, I don't know. I have to wait. What I have to do now is that I have to wait for this to dry. I have to wait for the dirt itself to dry and become effectively so brittle that it brushes away. When I say that his paw was so big, I'm not kidding, this is the heel of my hand, and his toe goes all the way up to the middle of my digit. He was a big boy. This is my boy's paw print. This is his foot. This is his foot. Even this one, which has a lot of dirt in it, this is the one that was up on the hill, where I didn't think I was going to be able to pull it out. But honestly, you're not pulling out, you're only pulling out like that much dirt. You're permafrost. Seriously fucking permafrost. These are actually tears of joy. I've got 2 more over here. This is the one I think is going to be the most intact with the most amount of claws. You could tell here where there's 1 claw here, 1 claw here, 1 claw here, and there should be 1 claw in here. There is a clump of dirt here. And I'm gonna have to, that's my boy. There is 1 claw here that I did set in the rubber cement and not the epoxy. God, Cody, I didn't think I'd ever have you again. I'm gonna have to work around this dirt to excavate it without damaging it. This is actually a pair of paw prints. This is a front and rear paw. And again, when I say that that wasn't enough, it wasn't enough PVC clay to set his paw prints correctly. Look how deep his pad was. I didn't make this up. His paw print is literally, this is 2 paw prints. Again, there's a claw here and a claw here. This is 2, this is rear and a front. Big old boy. What a big old boy he was. Okay. So I apologize for getting a little emotional, but I'm going to show you something and you're going to understand why doing these life casts to me is really important. So I did not do Cody's paw impression, but this is the paw impression that I got from the vet. Okay. It is not deeply grooved at all. It is very thin. This is probably a 1/4 inch thick of PVC clay, and I gave them a very specific foot. Okay. Remember how I said his foot came from the heel of my hand all the way to my middle finger? Those are his front feet. I specifically told them to do his front feet. Okay? This is a rear foot. And I know it's a rear foot because the end of the 4 digit doesn't even get to this digit. Okay? So in front of me I have 1, 2, 3, 4 single cast feet. Okay, and then this one right here is a group casting of 2 paws. Okay, so it's a rear and a front. Okay. Now, I did use some JB Weld down in the claw marks so that some of the claws would be retained. You can see that here, that some of these claws have been retained. Okay. So I did it on the double paw print with the JB Weld, and then I also did it on the single paw print. Now this one, okay. This one I did it on. I don't think I did it on this one. Now this one should give me the best quality of print. And as you can see, there is still a considerable amount of dirt. Basically, after the plaster set for an hour, I went in with a little hand spade and went around the outside, and because the ground for the most part was not frozen, it popped right out. I got really nervous, don't get me wrong. I got super, super nervous that this whole thing was just going to be a bunk disaster. But this one right here just proved that this was a good idea. And these do my heart more good than this one I got from the vet, okay? Because I know they were taken when he was happy, when he was truly, truly avoiding me. I wanted to be out in the yard and have some good fun. I do think that that's a rear foot. I don't think it's a front foot. It might be. I don't think it is, though. I will be able to double check better after I get these cleaned up. So right now, yeah, bring you around here. So right now what we're going to be working on is, and these were much larger casts because the polymer that you can spray on here kind of cast the ground around it too, which was a really large area. But you can definitely see where his claw print impressions were. You can see where the heel of his paw was. You could definitely see that this is Cody's true paw impression. Same thing with this one over here. His heel of his paw was over here, and yeah, he was a big boy. So these are more true to his paw, and so now I'm gonna channel my inner Indiana Jones, my inner archaeologist, and get some of my clay tools over here. Okay, and like with this one where it had a little bit of grass growing on the side of it, kind of trim back some of those roots. Okay, and we're going to get a lot of the more organic material out. Now, just so you guys are aware, when I got these in my house, because I did use the JB Weld on this one, my whole house stank like epoxy, and it kind of still does. I'm not gonna lie, it still kind of stinks like epoxy. And well, I'm pretty okay with that because eventually the epoxy smell is going to fade. I cannot get my dog back though, so right now what we're doing is we're just going through and channeling our little inner archaeologist and getting all of this excess dirt out. And it's gonna be a little bit of a trick because I gotta figure out what is the dirt and what is the dirt that was cast with the polymer, because that's not going to be the same. So like you could tell here there was some cracking, and a lot of that is from when I pulled it out of the ground. But yeah, I will be channeling my inner archaeologist for this. To get these life casts cleaned up and get all of the dirt out of here. I am not simply washing them out because I'm not entirely sure that the plaster could handle it. I know the JB Weld could handle water. That's not an issue. The question is whether or not the question is whether or not the plaster could. Look how big those claws were. I'll tell you one thing, when he stepped on your foot, whew, it hurt. It hurt a lot. Okay. And I don't think I'm going to have too much problem figuring out what is just straight dirt and what is mixed in with that sealer, because the straight dirt falls away pretty quick, and the rest of it kinda, it doesn't really fall away. See, like this has got some of that polymer in it, and this does not. It's coming straight off just like that. And there was a lot more to these prints. I mean, this one, the one that's the double, was huge, huge, just enormous compared to the size of what it is now, and limbing it down. So I just get to channel my inner Indiana Jones and my inner archaeologist to get his foot back. But I'm okay with that. And already you can see, like, just in this profile here, how much deeper his pads were compared to that PVC clay impression. There was just not enough dirt, or there was not enough polymer clay used, and there was not enough weight put on his foot to get that final outcome. I'm having a little trouble with, I think these are the two nails here, but I don't know where this claw went. I feel like it should have been here, and that maybe it broke off when I pulled it out. Sure, if you don't have a dog, you're thinking I'm nuts, but he was very fastidious about his feet. Not everyone was allowed to touch the Cody feet. The other thing is before I actually get this wet and risk the stabilizing agent, which is the plaster, I want to make sure that there is enough material to support washing all this dirt out. And I'm not going to know until I actually get the paw print clear. So that's what we're doing right now. So we're just cleaning up these paw prints. Okay, I have one that I have pretty well dug out. And now you can't really see this part, but just on the profile you can tell that these pads, I mean, he had way more weight than was allowable for that print. And so, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can relax my hand back into this and be like, that's my boy. And that's what hit me when I first did this on camera. Now, the JB Weld has had a little bit of time to cure a little bit more, so this is a little bit more stable, but I'm really not going to rank, you know, just like dig on that. There's this spot right here, and there was definitely a claw that was supposed to come through here, but it didn't. And this claw, I think, came out over here, okay? It's really hard to tell. I mean, I can probably get some of this other stuff up. But I dig into the sealant pretty quick. I'm flicking this stuff all over the studio. This dirt. And there is also the issue of the JB Weld, which is way up here, up in the toes. If I got dirt in my mouth. If I remember right, this is the one that was out in the far corner past the trees. Because it's got the JB Weld that went out past the toes. Which means he would have had uneven balance as he was going down that incline. So that kind of goes with the whole thing of why I can't find his claw in here. And I don't remember if it was present or not. I may be able to dig this out just a little bit more and find it. I think after now, because now what's going to be here is it's going to be the sealant here, and then it's going to be it's going to be the plaster. So I think if I come at this from the bottom, from the dirt side, and not, see, because here, this is what I'm talking about, like right here. So right here, there's a little bit of dirt, but it's mostly secured in the sealant. So it doesn't just fall off, okay? And that's what I'm talking about. The dirt that's mixed up with the sealant that is the actual bottom of the paw print will start to give you resistance. It won't give you the same kind of resistance. It won't fall away when you get at it. And so in that way, see, like this stuff even though like I can see the plaster cast there, some of this stuff is just not, it's not gonna be even. So I want to get the plaster wet, but the sealant should protect the plaster. So I think after this, I'm going to go in with this brush and some soapy water, just very damply. See if I can't clean these pads off a little bit, expose them a little bit more. But even this is 100% better than this. This is death cast. This is life cast, and that's 100. That's 100% difference. That's a 180 on that. It's 180 degrees from that. So, does this make a mess? Yes, it does. Is it time consuming? Yes, it is. Is it more wholly organic? Yes. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions on the materials or the time that it takes to set these paw prints and do these life casts, just leave your questions in the comments below. I'll try to answer them with as much knowledge as I possibly can, but I pretty much walked you through, guys, through all of them. I did want to do a postscript on that, and that is I did put Cody down on the 7th. Today is the 18th. I have kind of filled a hole in the house. It is not a replacement for Cody. But I did want to make a little introduction, and it is this little girl. Yes, she's so cute. I imagine she's going to be in a lot of videos and making herself well known to the camera because she's been chewing on my hand the whole time. So, what do you think? Okay? What do you think? No? No. Okay. So that would be the kitten, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope some of you have some takeaways that you can use this project for, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I hope you like and subscribe. See you later.